What up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with the man himself, the Sci-Fi Sentry. Thank you for being here, sir. And we are here with one of my Kaiju Unlimited series where we will discuss a specific kaiju, and I have specific guests to do that with. And my very first guest is, of course, Sentry. And with most of the guests that I chose, I kind of just randomly picked people. But for this particular kaiju, I knew I had to go to this gentleman here to talk Rodan. It's his biggest favorite kaiju. And actually, I want to dive in first to ask you, why is it that Rodan stands out to you above all else?
Like every other say Godzilla fan, we all love Godzilla. Godzilla's the king of the monsters and everything. And Ghidorah, Godzilla's arch nemesis, Mothra, Anguirus, King Caesar, Gorosaurus, Jet Jaguar. Um, but Rodan, for me, just it's kind of like a tie between Anguirus and Rodan because they both have characteristics that I relate to, and I'm just adding those names because I appreciate all of Godzilla's allies. But with Rodan and Gearus, it's kind of a tie. But I'll just put it this way: Rodan does not always follows the rules. He makes his own rules. He is a bit of anti-hero, and it's up to him if he decides to want to do something. And it's the personality also when watching the first 1956 film that when I was also very young that it's just something I liked. I've always liked winged creatures. I always liked uh like pterodactyls, dinosaurs, back then, pteranodons, stuff like that. So he was to me the first time I had seen a flying, well, not the first time, but he was like when I saw King Ghidorah for the first time, like that was the first time I saw Rodan as a flying,
Like something to that
yeah,
magnitude.
yeah, a flying kaiju, and then King Ghidorah came after that later on in the film. But it's and that and Rodan, nobody ever brings up that Rodan freaking beat the shit out of Godzilla in Ghidorah when they had their first in encounter. And a lot of people don't mention that. A lot of people say, what, hey, Rodan and Godzilla, they were even. Rodan had an advantage because he was able to fly, but Godzilla had maybe the strength advantage. But it was who knows how many hours they could have put. Like they didn't say that, but how many hours in the film did they fight for?
Hmm.
And that's why like Rodan stands out, and he's tenacious too. He's smart. He's a survival instincts. If I think as he got older, or not older, as his character progressed throughout the Showa and then Heisei and then Millennium, like he went to like, what, if I can't win, I'll live to fight another day. And that's why I like his characteristics. He's a survivor, and I've always said that even when I made my own discussion video on Rodan, the legendary Rodan, back 4 years ago. I just That's how I see him, and like Anguirus, I'll just bring back Anguirus to mention that Anguirus is absolutely tenacious, never gives up. He knows he's a smaller, less stronger kaiju who's still going to keep fighting. And with Rodan, when it came to Godzilla, when he first had his appearance, when they first did their uh, in other words, when they were all in one universe, the Toho universe before Marvel. Uh, Rodan just he went straight at Godzilla, didn't care, just took Godzilla to the limit, and I think it's not that I don't think people don't give Rodan credit. It's just that Rodan always took a back seat now, to Godzilla because we all knew Godzilla was the first one, and then but we all know that he's a staple in Toho because he's one of the famous four. He was right after Anguirus because it was Godzilla raids again, and then it was Godzilla, then it was Anguirus, and then it was Rodan at 56.
Well, it's
So
funny how now, like when you think about the top three, like Anguirus doesn't even pop up. It's usually like Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra. That's usually the three they speak of.
yeah,
Um, but I'm definitely gonna be asking you more about like obviously the legacy of Rodan and what it really
Mhm.
means. But I do want
Yeah.
to talk about the 1956 film that he debuted in, and one of the things that I rewatched that the other day, and it got to me for a couple of reasons. Is one of the reasons why it sparked me to do these episodes is that the movie itself is almost as serious as 54 Godzilla. Like it has a serious tone. It's even creepy, terrifying at moments. Uh, so I really love the plot from Rodan because it takes itself seriously. You know, it's not the campy stuff we kind of get later on. It's going
Yeah.
following the same footsteps of 54. And I don't know what was your first overall thoughts with the film when you first saw it in 50, or you didn't see it in 56, but obviously when you saw it.
Uh, I saw it. I saw it a little bit after, like I think like a year after, or maybe less after I saw Ghidorah, and then saw Mothra, and then I saw Rodan later. Uh, but I thought it was. It's like you said. It has a serious tone. It's taken seriously. The story's taken seriously, and then it kind of has horror aspects. Like it does
Hmm.
have sci-fi horror aspects, and that's what intrigued me. You know, even when I was younger. You know, when you're younger, you don't process that. You know, that kind of thing. But when I saw it a few nights ago, and even when I saw it, a few years ago, it does have a serious tone. Like nothing about it was. I mean, like I don't even think I saw maybe even a touch of comic relief at all, or even just to break up
Hmm.
monotony.
No, it's totally
And
serious. I mean, even from a human plot, because obviously, when the miners kind of start going missing, like there's this accusation that, oh my God, did he kill that guy? Did he murder him back there?
yeah,
And the wives and the sisters and the families are all upset, and there's doubt and betrayal that they think is going on. And now it also brings us to one of like just I just learned like the name of the insects to which is early on in the film, which causes the problem for the miners disappearing, and they're
hmm
apparently called meganulons.
Mega Newland, yeah.
So I'm wondering how you feel, because do you feel like maybe in some weird way that this is theoretically kind of related to Megalon in some way?
No, no, because I even before that I did more research like years ago that Mega Newlons are actually like dragonfly. They're dragonfly larvae, and
So
I
probably
did
closer
kind
to
of.
Megagurius, probably closer to that.
Yeah, exactly like Mega Gearus. There is a Mega Newlon, and then there's Mega Nula, and then there's Mega Gearus. But yeah, but I do just the way they look. I did kind of, you can say, well, it reminds me of Megalon. But they I did like how they were designed even for the time, 1956.
Yeah,
And they were interesting. I mean, they added to the film. They added to the thriller type of, what the hell is killing these miners? What killed Goro? What I forgot his name. I forgot what was it? The guy from what do you call it? Kenji Sahara. Yeah, Kenji Sahara. The his character saw um the Mega Nulon once yeah, there you go, right there. Fire Rodan, that's my boy right there. It was yeah, there was he saw them, and then he saw, like, when he had the introduction of Rodan. But I thought they were I mean, they added to the story and to the horror aspect.
definitely. Yeah. Um, so yeah, again, as I said, I rewatched this the other day. I've seen it a number of times, but it's funny how when you watch it the first time, it kind of strikes you differently as you keep watching it. And more and more I kept watching it, the ending is more and more depressing. Like I really hate the ending.
Yeah, yeah.
But as I was taught, I don't know if it was with you or somebody else, but it was initially planned that of the two Rodans that were existing in this film, really one of them was supposed to survive and go on. However, malfunction on the set where the second one of the lines broke and it fell to the fires. And so, but I think in a lot of ways, it was so effective because it literally looks like it's trying to survive. Like even though it kind of sacrifices itself with its partner, it does look like it's still trying to fight for its life. So when it finally flies up again and then all of a sudden just ends up falling down and dying, it's like, wow, that's intense, you know?
Hmm. No, I mean, even for 56, I mean, even the like you saw the video that I sent you, man, and
Hmm.
I wanted to add it to this pre-recorded video, so because I wanted to capture that heartfelt pain that you feel when it's towards the end, when both Rodans die. But see, that's one thing I did. I heard about that, but I wanted to do more research. But I wanted to mostly look at the film and then look back at other films that I saw with it's but man, it's just that part really, like, man, like you sympathize with these creatures. And like I was thinking to myself, shit, man, it's I didn't even know about that. They wanted to continue it, and then that the whole thing with the line broke, and then because they the budget and what do you call it? E.G. Subaraya did the special effects. Man, it was amazing for the film. The
Hmm.
volcano looking great, but yeah, but no, it's hard to watch at the end, man. And every time I see it, I'm like, man, that's why when you said the sad, when you put on the on
The
the
sad tale, yeah.
thumbnail, yeah, on the thumbnail it says the sad, history and story of Rodan, and yeah, it hits home, man. It hits home.
Yeah, and it's funny because the more you read about the film itself, it is true that Rodan, this is a creature that was awakened in the wrong time. Like it had been existing way back, but it got awoken again during modern age, and so it wasn't really necessarily malevolent. It was just trying to survive in a modern world, and it could be destructive because it's of a type of creature that it was. But it wasn't necessarily trying to destroy humanity. It's just trying to coexist, and it can't because it's
Yeah,
got to feed and all this other stuff. But and even at the end, the human characters are actually in sorrow. They feel bad because they know that this isn't the creature's fault that their demise is coming to this, but it's humanity trying to battle with survival against a creature that could easily wipe them out in within seconds.
yeah, of
So
course,
I do
man.
have a little video here. It's not super long, from a guy named Dangerville. I don't know if you're familiar with that person or not.
Yeah, yeah.
But he has like a little video called "The Heartbreaking Story of Rodan." So we're just gonna watch it real quick and see what he says.
Okay.
I haven't watched it yet, so.
Hmm.
While everyone has heard of Godzilla, not all can say they are familiar with one of his counterparts in Godzilla King of the Monsters, Rodan. Rodan has actually been around for nearly as long as Godzilla, with his first movie coming in 1956, 2 years after the original Godzilla. Along with being one of the better Toho films in my opinion, this classic monster flick had one of the most gripping and emotionally dark plots out of all the giant monster movies. Specifically, the horrible deaths of the first Rodan and his mate. Yes, in the beginning there were two Rodan creatures, a mating couple, partners for life. Their heartbreaking deaths are the topic for this video. Residents, this is Jacob, and let's get to it. Before we get to the horrible deaths of the Rodan couple, let's briefly touch up on the story of 1956 Rodan film. 63-year-old spoilers incoming. All throughout this story are remarks about how humanity had harmed the Earth, and that Godzilla and the emerging monster threats were all connected to the atom bomb testings that were heavily going on during the 50s. The story starts off set on a giant coal mine somewhere in the heart of Japan. After some time, miners begin to show up brutally mutilated, but most importantly, dead. Following some debate amongst the other miners, the humans soon find out that it's not another person who is committing these murders, but actually giant man-eating bugs from deep within the coal mine, after the crew dug too deep. This whole movie is filled with countless human fatalities, and it's not afraid to play around with death's ugly reality, something I respect coming from a giant monster movie. The miners soon ask for help from the local military, and humanity fights back. After even gunshots could not fatally harm the giant bug monsters, it seemed like there was nothing the human characters could do to stop this outbreak. But then something else was born, something even more dangerous than the bugs. The Rodan creatures hatched from their eggs and were ready to start a life, a family of their own. A lone patrolling Japanese fighter plane was doing his basic routine, surveying the local airspace. This pilot did not know that this would be his last moments of life. He detected something in the sky, something moving at supersonic speeds and maneuvering in ways thought to be impossible. He and the crew back at the base did not know that this UFO was one of the Rodan, so they made the mistake of following it. It wasn't long till the Rodan noticed it was being followed, and then made a U-turn without losing any of its velocity. Before the pilot could react, Rodan slammed into the fighter. All that was found of the pilot was his bloody helmet. And this was only the beginning. The time that followed the introduction of these two flying monsters was filled with terror and destruction. The mating pair of Rodan had claimed their territory, and all humans who were unfortunate enough to live within this area were prime targets for the monsters. Cities were on fire, thousands were being killed, and it's hard to imagine how much money this would have costed the country of Japan. The giant beasts would use their super powerful wings to deliver atomic shockwaves, strong enough to obliterate entire buildings in one flap. On top of this massive power was the reality that these creatures could fly at speeds greater than sound. On a little island like that of Japan, that means they could destroy any city in the country in a matter of hours. The fate of the entire world was at stake. If these Rodan were to breed, the Earth would be consumed by their power. Something had to be done, but fighting these Rodan by normal means was doing little to nothing to even slow the beasts down. There was only one thing that could.
I always love those little sets they have. I saw like a behind the scenes where one of the guys working with I'm assuming they had someone in a suit for Rodan, but he was standing next to it, and it was much more life size in terms of the humans. But the tanks are always cool to look at, and the old train tracks and stuff like that. I always loved the sets that the Japanese did for these films. It was always amazing.
Be done. The decision was made to commence a massive bombing after discovering the location of the Rodan pair's nest at the base of Mount Aso. The military planned to bomb the volcano and trigger an eruption that would trap or kill the monsters. It began. This was no ordinary bombing. The attack went on for what seemed like minutes. High-velocity shells, missiles, rockets. Everything the military had was firing directly on top of the Rodan nest. Both Rodan seemed to be impervious to these sorts of weapons directly, but when the Earth was literally being shifted by the power of these weapons, even the Rodan monsters could do nothing but hide and screech out in terror. Their home was being destroyed, and they were unable to reach one another. They were separated and afraid. To the humans of this story, they were terrible monsters of death, but the reality of the situation was that these were just animals. Not much different than the birds you see nesting in your trees or buildings around your home. Just like how a blue jay will attack nearly anything within its territory, these Rodan were simply trying to guard their home and soon-to-be family. Little did they know that this dream would never happen. The immense barrage on the volcano did eventually lead to its eruption. The Rodans were being overwhelmed by falling rubble from above due to the explosions, and now they were feeling the heat of the hot magma surfacing from deep below. In a last effort, both Rodan managed to break out from their Earth.
Do you think that the demise of the Rodans here led to kind of the birth of Fire Rodan? Do you think that's sort of what led to it eventually?
I think it was a catalyst. I think it was a catalyst and a great idea. You know, just the fact that the two Rodans were nesting right underneath a volcano, Mount Aso.
Yeah.
So I think so.
Earthy tombs. Badly injured from the events of the last few minutes, one of the Rodan was hit directly by boiling hot fumes and was crippled. Slowly, the Rodan, presumed to be the female, fell towards the lava below. Unlike the rendition of Rodan that we are about to see in Godzilla King of the Monsters, these original Rodan did not have the same immunity towards extreme heat. The Rodan landed in the lava. Its screams could be heard for miles around, causing its mate to rush to its location. Remember, this was a giant monster movie made way back in 1956, and the scene that we are about to talk about was something you would never expect for a movie in this genre during the time, or even now. As the one Rodan squirmed in insane pain, the other Rodan hovered directly above, clearly knowing that its soulmate was having its last moments of life. Here's when something incredible yet so sad occurred. The presumed male Rodan fell directly on top of its dying mate by choice. It did not fly away, it did not seek out the humans for vengeance. All it wanted to do was be with its mate. Life without each other was not worth living to these monsters. They burned alive. Their roars of agony echoed across the land. They died just like they lived, together. This Romeo and Juliet style death was something that was brand new for the monster movie genre, and to this day I can't think of another monster movie that has tried this sort of tragic love story. The original Rodan movie was way ahead of its time, just like the original Godzilla, bringing reality to its crazy monster fantasy. It had terror, death, anger, and love. If you weren't a fan of Rodan before, maybe now you'll be able to see that Rodan is right up there with Godzilla and King Kong. If you liked today's video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you actually at least have a chance at knowing when we upload. As always, residents, this has been Jacob, and peace out.
So many thanks to Dangerville there for that. Definitely a good breakdown of the film, and of course what we were talking about with the death of the Rodans and the sacrifice that the other one made to not go on and just die with its mate. But now let's talk a little bit about the evolution of Rodan. So obviously, as he kind of pointed out, what we saw back then in 56 is vastly different than what we got in the Monsterverse and King of the Monsters. So how do you feel about the overall progress and the evolution of the Rodan itself over the time?
Blown away by like a lot of people were on how his design came to be in Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then what we saw before even the film came out. A lot of similarities to his Showa counterpart, his iconic look, and the fact that he is now volcanic has thermal armor, and has like an internal combustion system, as biologically, his blood is pretty much lava. So it's like that evolution was great. Of course, with the other ones, Fire Rodan, and the way Rodan looked in Final Wars, one of your favorites. And then Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla, where he was smaller, and he came out in a lot of movies, even just as just from stock footage. But his evolution is, he's always evolved. It's just the Heisei where he was just used once, but and made him smaller. But it does make sense because he would look kind of.
Is that the one where they're fighting over the egg?
Yeah.
So, because I always kind of feel like I've seen it a couple of times that era is not really necessarily my favorite, but I always try to understand, like, what is the thinking of Rodan and that, with obviously baby Godzilla being chasing after the egg and everything. What is the purpose there? Is it for food, or did Rodan think it was something else?
Well, what I remember watching that film, because it's one of my favorite Heisei films, is that they both, Godzilla Jr. or Baby Godzilla and Rodan were in the same clutch of eggs.
Okay.
And they were in the same clutch, just that Rodan broke out sooner and evolved, got irradiated by being on that island, because the island was also where they kept nuclear waste, or that's where they would store it. And he grew in size. I don't think he was fully. I don't know. There could be so much speculation, but I don't think he was fully evolved yet. But I understand why they would go with a puppet, because Rodan in that time, being played by another suit actor would look kind of, how they're gonna make him fly, how they're gonna make him, stuff like that.
Right.
I understood why, I understood why they did the puppet, but what I did like about the fact that they did the puppet is they were able to do the designs the way they wanted to, and they don't have to design it specifically for someone in a suit that's gonna be in a suit.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah, but
true
no,
because like you look back at some of the older versions of Rodan and he looks a little bit aloof or goofy looking. I think of like the Astro monster, him and Godzilla fighting, and when Mothra comes up and starts spitting webbing at him, it's like, eh. Rodan's always got kind of like that dumbfounded look.
yeah,
But obviously, as time has gone on, they've made him look more menacing and cool looking, and I always liked that and appreciated that, especially with Legendary and how they managed to portray Rodan.
oh yeah, of course.
So speaking of which, so obviously in King of the Monsters, there's been a lot of talk about how Rodan was portrayed, and I know I kind of bust your balls a little bit about how much he got his ass kicked in that film, but
Yeah.
uh, does it bother you that they portrayed him in that way? Like, I know he had some cool moments. In fact, a lot of people admit that his coming out party is like one of the best scenes in King of the Monsters, which I would agree. Uh,
Uh,
but do you feel like that somehow they've kind of betrayed Rodan a little bit by the way that they just kept kind of letting him get his ass kicked here and there on that film?
nah, man. I mean, like I said, we're huge fans. We love that kind of thing. We love the genre. We love the kaiju genre. We were fans all the way from the '56 film. Godzilla, Rodan, King Ghidorah, Mothra. But I mean, I'm not gonna fucking throw a tantrum because Rodan lost.
Yeah.
Like to Ghidorah, and then to Mothra. Yeah. Of course. When you're into it and you watch it, when you're there watching the movie, like you wanna, you know, yeah, I want to get you to. I wanted Rodan to show off and look good, and he did. I have to admit, like his coming out intro in King of Monsters, I think stole the show, man. Like it stole the show.
Hmm.
Even more than Ghidorah's
Oh
intro,
yeah,
and
definitely.
and and that's when you're able to tell that Michael Dougherty was a true fan of Rodan. He said that's his favorite. And but as far as nah, man, I'm not gonna there was like I told you there was a lot of parts where people were like dogging, oh, Rodan became Ghidorah's bitch. I'm like, come on, bro, what the fuck would you know, man? What the fuck would a little fucking what the fuck would a little 17, 18-year-old kid know about fighting when you probably just stay in your room all fucking day and bitch and complain about the bullies that mess with you. No, 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 no pun intended. No, no, bullies are not good. Bullies are not good. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like get into arguments with other people because of that character, who were like, oh my god, like this is something me and Jedi Granville talk about a lot, man. Like some people, bro, just they're far out there, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Hey, imagination, escapism. I did it too. I went through bullying, and I know what it's like, and I faced my demons and everything, but I know what it's like for escapism. But some of these people, bro, these fans, they either live on Monster Island, or they live on Planet X, or they live on the key. They live in the Keylog's base. So I'm like, or what I'm saying, man. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Zillion stuff. I'm not gonna like get into an argument for something like that, man. Whatever they say it. Even if I get pissed or say it, it's not gonna stop them from saying it. But no, you kind of like that's why I always go when you guys give me some flack for it. That's why I always go to what if they would have made Rodan the size of Ghidorah? What if they would have made Rodan the same size as Godzilla? What if Mothra fought Rodan in a bigger size? That's just why I say, like, what, get Rodan, put him in on equal footing. Put him in equal footing, and then I'll be
Well,
say,
I
let
like the fact that he wasn't quite as big as the rest, because the thing is, Ghidorah was pretty big over Godzilla too, and I think
yeah,
this is kind of where I felt like the monsters kind of blew their load early because they brought in Ghidorah too early. Because really, when we think about Ghidorah, is like one of his strongest opponents for Godzilla, and so like I mean, obviously they didn't really have the foresight to see how the MonsterVerse was going to play out, and they just kind of get the shit out there as fast as they could, and so I'm really happy, obviously, with King of the Monsters. But it's like almost like now, it's like, man, you go from King Ghidorah to Scar King, and he's not even as strong as one. The ice creature was much stronger than Scar King was, so it's
Shimo.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, Shimo. So it's just like the size comparison between Rodan and Ghidorah was understandable, and even then, you kind of said it. He isn't afraid to take on bigger prey. He's done that before. So Rodan didn't shy away. He didn't win, but he didn't shy away from Ghidorah at all.
That's what I'm saying. That's why when all these people were, when all these people were saying, oh well, Ghidorah made Rodan his bitch. Did you see Rodan run when Ghidorah came at him? Rodan went straight at him. Rodan didn't say, "Hey, I don't care if you're freaking some."
Yeah, I mean, he had to put the
Freaking,
brakes on, but it's not like he said, "Oh, okay, I'm going to bolt out of here." He could have easily done that, but he didn't. He fought and tried to stick with it.
yeah,
But
I mean,
Ghidorah is like the alpha for a reason,
yeah, and then like I'm saying, but that's why when we go into talking about that, getting the detail, they couldn't make Rodan as big as Ghidorah because then Rodan's gonna how you say wipe the floor with Mothra. So
Right,
they couldn't.
right.
Yeah, there's defining things about that why Rodan couldn't be, and they couldn't make Rodan, Mothra, and Godzilla fight King Ghidorah because then that would take away Godzilla's uh how can I say
Champion.
it, his stigma of being king of the
Yeah,
monsters. So
yeah.
there's a lot of variables a lot of people don't think about. But I'm not gonna be like, oh no, fuck that, man. Freaking you guys are full of shit. Rodan fucking didn't. He took it. He took it right in the chest, and he still didn't die.
Well,
He
that's
freaking
why
went
it's
up to
funny
Godzilla.
because even over time, and I know eventually I'll do episode on Mothra, but even in King of the Monsters, in order for her to compete with Rodan, because Rodan just getting near was like lighting her on fire, like she was burning,
Yep.
like every time she touched him. So something a moth wouldn't have as a stinger, but she did. Like this was something they had to do, similar to what we did with Kong and GVK, where you had to have an axe to kind of compete with Godzilla. So she had to have some sort of line of defense to keep the fire demon off her, and so that's how you kind of balance it out a little bit.
No, yeah, no, but it makes sense, man. That's what it was. How do you say it? The equalizer. It was the equalizer that she has a stinger. But I don't.
Yeah.
But no, man. But aside from that, I don't get all freaking that. Get out of bent out of shape because people say stuff like that. I'm like, come on, man. It's a movie, and it's already 2019, and if people are still talking about it, then y'all gotta focus on other on other things, man.
Yeah, it was funny too because you brought up Final Wars and how Godzilla ended up fighting Rodan and that, and I saw another person post, which I didn't really think about initially, but now rethinking back, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Is that as Godzilla's going around and beating this ass of all these kaiju that the Zillions are sending out to him, uh, when he fights Angarius, Rodan, and King Caesar, uh, he doesn't kill them like he kills some of the other ones. Like he ends up just kind of like toss them into a pile. So it's kind of like a nod to that they are at times his allies. So that he didn't like waste them or anything like that. He just kind of put them in a pile and then moved on. So I thought that was kind of interesting because it didn't really dawn on me until someone mentioned it. It's like, you're right. Because Kamikaris, he killed that, and then Zilla he tossed into the whatever the Australian place is that he lit up on
Building.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the other ones he just obliterated, but those three he didn't because they were allies at some point in his history. So very cool
Yeah.
approach with that. I
Absolutely.
know you and I agree that when it comes to the MonsterVerse, that there should be some origin stories for both Rodan and Mothra. But since we're talking Rodan, he's the main focus here. Um, what would you like to see if they were able to do one? Now, obviously, it's a far-fetched idea because it's all about money, whether you can get people in the seats. But if the MonsterVerse decided to go that route, what would you like to see happen? Now, Neko brought up a cool thing about a prequel or predate thing where it's the Aztecians would be worshiping him as some sort of sun god, fire demon type thing. What would you like to see as an origin story for Rodan and the MonsterVerse that they could do it?
No, that would be great, man. The Aztecs, the Aztec history and the pyramids and Tenochtitlan, where that's where the main Aztec Empire was, and that would be amazing. I mean, they would have to, of course, base it on the fact that he's a fire demon, and the Aztecs worshipped all kinds of creatures, man. The jaguar, the eagle, the anaconda, stuff like that. So it makes sense, because Rodan in the MonsterVerse is more like a bird of prey. He's more like an eagle, a bald
Yeah.
eagle, or a falcon. So I
And
think it
there is some
would,
similarities to like Rise of the Phoenix and stuff like that with him.
yeah. So I think that would work. I mean, it's I mean, they'll have to still connect it to Japan. Connect the fact that he's from Japan, but they could put just like they did in King of the Monsters. Well, you know what, Rodan, began in Japan, born in Japan, but then went to Central America and just, I mean, he would land, or he would, I don't know if there's volcanoes in Mexico too. So I mean, it would make sense. Oh, he arrives for sacrifice every month or every 2 months, and and they give him a sacrifice or whatever, because that's what the Aztecs, or the history of the Aztecs, Mexican people,
Yeah,
they were big into sacrifice. So it would it
definitely.
would it would be cool. It would be cool. But I think that does make sense, man. I would like that. I would like the Aztec, but then still connect the Japanese origin, and then bring some people from America. Oh, look, this is what we're studying, this and that. Or they make it, like you said, they make it in the Aztec era, where because the Aztecs were conquered before what do you call it? Even I think even America was
Yeah.
was discovered. So, but I mean, it's a good idea though.
Mhm.
I would definitely use it.
Now, obviously, Yamazaki, who did -1, is already working on another Godzilla film. Um, but I know you and me and the Sci-Fi Collective, we've all been kind of talking about the possibility who could appear with Godzilla in the next film, because I think he is going to add another kaiju. Um, whether or not it's Rodan, I highly doubtful. But let's say they do a second film and then he goes to do a third one as a trilogy. Would you like to see Yamazaki do sort of like a third movie where it's almost like a destroy all monsters type vibe, where it's kind of like a collective of different creatures from the kaiju era of Toho and stuff to be involved in that third film?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I think anybody who's true kaiju fan like we are would want to see multiple monsters in a film, especially one where Yamazaki, you said.
Yep.
The director from -1, like that would be. I think a lot of fans would want to see that, especially Rodan, and the famous four, and then Anguirus. Even though Anguirus is not, he's not considered famous four, he's still Godzilla's first nemesis, and he still has a lot of them have fan bases, really large fan bases. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would love to see that, man, especially now, just off of what -1 achieved. So I would love to see that, man. Maybe but Rodan, Anguirus, any of them you know, um, would be welcome. I'm just not a big. I'm just like we've talked about too. I'm not a big Hedora fan like you. I'm not a big Hedora fan. I mean, it makes sense that you know he comes like he's created off of pollution, and that it would be more of a, let's say, serious storyline for the
Hmm.
next, if they would add him to -1. But it's just not my thing, man. Eudora's just not my thing. That's just what I think.
That's fine. No, that's fine. Obviously, I've talked about. I would love to see Anguirus brought back, of course, but again, depending on what, like, it's always going to be kind of curious how Yamazaki's going to do this other kaiju, because he did so well with Godzilla -1 that like the world's open to him. I'm like, this is going to be very interesting. But if he knocks it out of the park, I'd be like the first one pushing for him to do yet another film. The minute
Mhm.
that one drops, I'm like, do another one. do another one. As long as it's good, as long as it can live up to -1. I hope he keeps like that sort of like serious tone and serious writing consistent throughout. I don't want to really see him go into the campy territory. I think that it works. He's a very good, well, whoever the writer is very good at writing the character, but directing, he's a master at it. So definitely hope that the serious tone just kind of stays the same, whatever he
Yeah,
does.
absolutely.
So finally, what do you believe will be Rodan's legacy going forward?
Um, well, I mean, it's not just me and you and everybody else in the Sci-Fi Society, Metal Tavern, and Rodan's. He was the third. He was the third kaiju that came out. Then it was Mothra, part of the famous four. His 56 film is already, even the, even though I don't follow it, I think it's bullshit. Rotten Tomatoes scores it at 75%.
Hmm.
And his legacies are, I mean, he already made it to Hollywood, Nubis. I mean, come on. I mean, what else? What else can we say? He already made it to Hollywood, and I mean, it's his legacy will always be there because he's always going to be just up there with Godzilla. He's always going to be known not just for being Rodan but he's also because Godzilla is a part of the same universe.
Mhm.
And Rodan already has his own fan base. He has hardcore fans like me, and like everybody who's a real big fan of Rodan. And yeah, he holds a place in my heart too, man, just like the other four and a lot of the kaijus in Toho universe. And but his legacy's already stamped, man. He's already made it to Hollywood. Who knows? Maybe he might show up in the new. Maybe he might make an appearance in the what do you call it? The Monarch Legacy of Monsters series. So
Yeah, I would love
he
to
didn't
see
die.
that series is not bad. Certainly, it's gonna all matter whether or not they can get rights to his character again. But I would love to see him appear again. That's
Mhm.
sort of the one thing that's kind of up in the air because the beginning of GVK, they talk about how both Kong and Godzilla are battling these other kaiju and they're defeating them, but we don't know if they're actually deceased or what. We just know they've been defeated. So it's kind of like, all right, so are they still alive or what's going on? But uh, certainly, I would like to see Rodan come back in some form. Like I think it needs to happen to me. Like, and I do think his legacy overall is going to be very secure. I think King of the Monsters actually did him a lot of justice, despite how we kind of feel about how he was portrayed in there a little bit. I think they did him right. They made him look great. He's strong, powerful, and obviously, if they do anything else with him, he's still like a force to be reckoned with. And so you might be right. Like if they do bring him back, maybe he comes back bigger and challenges Godzilla even more than he could have before. We never got to see like a legitimate fight with him and Godzilla, so who knows?
Mhm. No, I mean, and I want to add his legacy also being like just being the fact that he started in 56, which was pretty much the when Toho was still very in its infancy, and the fact that he's still already considered an icon, just like Ghidorah, Mothra, Godzilla. That also is something I'm very proud of because even though people say, "Oh, Rodan this, Rodan that," like you have the real true fans like us who, we're not elitists. We're not trying to, we're not trying to measure dicks on who's the best Godzilla fan or who's the top Godzilla fan. Like all these kaiju's hold our favorites. We love them, some more than others, and we like to see. We always want to see the kaiju's we like. It like explode on TV, just like Rodan did. All of them did. Rodan, Ghidorah, Godzilla, and Mothra. So it's very. I'm proud, and I'm not. I don't have to worry like a lot of us. I don't have to worry about his legacy. I'm just proud that I can call myself. We can call ourselves true Rodan fans, and the sky's the limit. I mean, he's and remember he's the first true terror of the skies. He's the
Yeah.
first true terror, man. Before Ghidorah came, Ghidorah wasn't shit. He got Rodan's the one that owns the skies, man. And Ghidorah wishes he was able to maneuver like Rodan, but no, just fucking around. But it's just yeah,
Well, that's kind of true because Ghidorah, as powerful as he is, like he's kind of clunky when he flies. He's got to worry about the heads and everything else. But Rodan, he's got speed and maneuverability and aerodynamics, so he's very quick.
Yeah. But no, yeah, man. But aside from that, man, yeah, his legacy is like you said, it's cemented in stone, steel. If they ever come up with something in our lifetime, man, I'll watch it. I'll watch it and I'll support it.
I
So
think I actually see Rodan behind you on the shelf. Actually,
yeah, I have them. I have both. I have the Playmates one, and I have the super. What do you call it? The Super 7.
yep.
I think a 4-inch one, and then yeah, and then I had to switch. I switched to the picture that you had given me at G Fest, which I thank you very much for, and I
Yep.
freaking cherished it. And yeah, man, just I mean, I love Rodan. I can show them all off, man, but I'm gonna have to be like, yeah, I mean,
All
I don't
day
want to
long.
make you, I don't want to make you, I don't want to make you jealous, man. I mean, Walter already gave you some flack the last time when we were doing on Kevin's channel.
Look, I
So
don't want chickens in my roost. I don't need the chickens.
I mean, babe, but I mean, the chicken made it before the armadillo, man.
Yeah, no, I actually love Rodan. I do, and that's the other thing. Like even like I looked, and to my knowledge, Toho's not going to be doing another Rodan film, but I wish they would kind of reboot it in the modern age, even if it's not Yamazaki. I would like to see someone else kind of like reimagine it in some way, but keep the core of the story together. I think it'd still be amazing. The technology's there. They've done Godzilla 100 different times in different ways, so it's like we know he's the guy, but these other creatures that we're going to be exploring through this series that I'm doing is the reason why I'd like to see Toho or the MonsterVerse Legendary. Like I'd like to see them take it just a bit further because I think the core group of us, and we're a lot of people, like would love to see more and more content of these creatures because it's well deserved. I mean, look at even like something like War of the Gargantuas. I mean, that would be cool to see another modern version of that. So there's plenty of material out there, man.
Oh, I forgot.
Oh yes, there you go. Yep, the double
Yep.
pack.
That one, and then I got that one. I still have the original one.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yep.
There was a I think there was a freaking I had a chance to get a VHS one years back, but I should have got it. But should have, could have, would have. Bro, I mean, oh yeah, man. I mean, Rodan, dude. Like, I never worry about what people say because we already know he's already iconic. He's already legendary. He was legendary before he went to legendary. And yeah, I mean, I mean, even other interactions, man. Like you mentioned before, I would love to see a versus, series. But I mean, either a show or like short films, like Rodan versus Batra, or Rodan versus Mothra 2, and this time Mothra, this time they show some respect for each other and stuff like that. Even we don't even know if some forms of Rodan exist in the Follow Earth in Legendary's timeline, and I mean it's because
And that's
man,
the
but
crazy
honestly,
thing is that the MonsterVerse is so big, like with Hollow Earth and everything, it's like so vast, and so they could have so many possibilities. But obviously, again, it always comes down to the money, how much they're willing to invest, and all I can hope for is that the Kaiju fans continue to go out and support these films. I know a lot of people get mad at the MonsterVerse for whatever reason, but if you don't support that, because really Toho kind of reflects what America's doing. And so when 2014 came out, that was a big like ignition or light to fire in Toho's ass to do Shin, which then led to -1, which is one of the best Godzilla films in years. So without without America doing what they're doing, Toho probably would have just left it dead because they were done after Final Wars. They weren't planning on doing anything. And so I'm just glad that, we have all this content now with the Kaiju movies and stuff. So I'm hoping that we'll keep going and doing more and more.
And I was gonna ask you too, like, because I mean, the Showa era, the Heisei era, the Millennium, and then Legendary, even the Rewa, they call it Rewa, the animes, and Shin Godzilla. I mean, they might even consider this one Rewa. They might even consider -1 Rewa, the Rewa era. But I mean, it's some big shoes to fill, man. Like, I mean, I don't think that Toho would want to throw money out again, like, because look at the failures of the series of what do you call it, a Singular Point and the Polygon trilogies, the animated trilogy, and I mean that
Well, the
was a
problem
lot of
is
money.
that, in my opinion, is anime is fine and animation is fine, but there is a bit of a difference when you're watching that versus watching a live action. And I think that's where -1 and the Monsterverse comes into play, because we've talked about it before. When you watch King of the Monsters, watching these classic Toho creatures come to life in the way that we hadn't seen them before was outstanding. And it was really about the details. So Rodan, like I said, he acted and looked like a bird. Like he has that one moment where he's out at the top of the mountain and he's like, he sees the people running, and just like a bird, he's like, "Whoa, look what I got, little worms. I'm gonna go eat some worms," and then he flies off. Right. So he has that mannerism, and so Mothra the same way. Sounds like a moth, an insect, looks like an insect. Ghidorah looked like amazing, and so on. So, and then you have Godzilla -1, and it looks menacing. He looks like the villain that he's supposed to be, and so I just think that with this day and age, like, you're able to do some pretty incredible things with the graphics and stuff. I mean, the animation's kind of cool on its own, even though I didn't like the Planet Earth stuff too much. But uh, the one we saw, Singular Point, was fine, but it's not the same vibe that you're going to get watching a live action film. It's just they need to concentrate on that, in my opinion.
Because no, and I agree that I'll just say that. I mean, we got to go back just a little bit to how Rodan looked in his introduction in King of the Monsters, and the fact that he didn't even try. He didn't even know. They probably didn't even care that there was a little city down there, and he just flew down normally. Didn't even go full blast, and he destroyed the whole city. Like, not even thinking, like, not even like paying attention to that. Imagine if you what he could do at full force if he decided to go after, let's say, the heart of Tokyo, or go to or Shanghai or Hong Kong. What he would do just to shoot, just if he wanted to use his power of his supersonic power, and I think he's even faster than supersonic. I think he can go faster.
Oh, they say he
And
does like Mach 1.5, which I don't know, that's faster than 9 or whatever. But either way, you made a good point, is that it's much like 56 in a way with King of the Monsters, because all these Titans are being woken in a time that they don't really belong. And
yeah,
they don't really start destroying Earth until Ghidorah makes the call, like, start tearing shit up. Like, he's the evil one from another planet. So
mhm.
that's when everybody starts kind of like tearing up the planet. But initially, when Rodan's released, he's like, "What the fuck is going on? Who are all these things? Like, what is going on?" And then he got
Yeah.
these planes flying around. He's like, what is this?" And then they start attacking him. He's chasing them around and he's doing his thing, but he's trying to survive. He's like, he has no idea what these things are. He's just
He was
doing
provoked.
business.
He was
Yeah,
provoked.
yeah. They blew up his home, woke him up, and he's like, "Oh, this is what I come to? Oh, okay. I'll show you a beat
Yeah.
down. Here we go."
Oh
So
yeah, I
anyway,
mean,
what is coming up on your channel? I know you've been taking a break. Are you going to be doing anything at all? Because I know sometimes you'll do some one-offs and stuff like that. But anything coming up?
No, man, I'm taking the holidays off. Got to get all of this medical stuff out of the way. Got to see what the hell's wrong with my back, and I think I can use the break too, man. I'm kind of just really not burned out, but I'm like I've been doing.
Focus on other things.
Yeah, well, of course, I'm in a relationship, so it's like I haven't been in a serious relationship in a while, and I've been doing content creating, man, for freaking 6.5 years. So I think I'm at a point now where I just want to enjoy enjoy some normalcy,
Yeah.
like just be like, yeah, you know what, I want to go here, I want to go there, maybe go back to G Fest or something like that. But as far as content creating, I don't want to say, I never say never because I'm very unpredictable. But
Yeah, that
but
you are.
but I mean, I just know that for sure I'm taking the rest of 2024 off, and maybe even January of 2025. But I'm just just dealing with everyday things, normal everyday life, man, and just taking a little break away from content creating. I haven't been that consistent, especially just doing live streams, but that's all I do. And the live streams I do are like twice a month. So it's
Yeah.
like, or once or twice a month. So I'm kind of like already leaning away. Like people can kind of tell, like, yeah, I think Daniel's already kind of like, he's talking with this girl now, and he's doing normal things, and he's probably too good for YouTube, and being a content Godzilla or creator, whatever. I'm just kidding, guys. No, but I just want to I just want to enjoy life, man. I just want to enjoy life, and just step away from a little bit. But you know, whenever you guys have like this, I want to thank you very much for and bringing me on, especially for Rodan, and I appreciate it. And I'm very blessed you guys invite me. But as far as when you guys do other streams, I'll be happy to join, man. But I mean, as far as hosting them, I'm like, let me get all my stuff taken care of, and maybe I can get back to it. But I'm fine, being on other people's streams because I'm not the one doing the work.
All the work. Yeah. Well, I do
But
appreciate you coming on. As for me, later tonight, I will be with Mr. Tony the Dead, where we'll be actually watching, but we won't be able to release the review till next week for the remake of Street Trash. We got a private screening for that we're going to watch and review. And
wow.
then tomorrow, I think he might be there for Candyman, maybe not. But we're in the darkness with Kevin Lambert, and we're going to be discussing the Candyman franchise, and RIP to Tony Todd, who passed recently. So
Yeah.
we'll be doing that. And then next week, I'll be continuing my Kaiju specific episodes, and I'll be with Goji 851 as we go and tackle Engirius, another one of Sentry's favorites and one of my favorite Kaijus as well. Much needed to talk about him and do all that. And then the following week, this is all depending on how I'm moving and when, but as of now, next Saturday, not next Saturday, but the one after, I'll be sitting down with Jedi Grand Vale as we talk Jet Jaguar. So that's my plan in the immediate future. And again, Sentry, thank you for joining me. For the rest of you, please go like and subscribe to the Sci-Fi Century. Like and subscribe to the Middletown Radio podcast. We thank for all the support you give us. And you got any comments, how you feel about Rodan, let us know. We'd love to get feedback. And we'll see you next time on the Middletown Radio podcast.
Rodan, remember, still a Toho icon, the first true fucking terror of the skies, motherfuckers.
He's on Mount Rushmore.
You see before you die.